waited for their coming. As soon as they drew nigh, the Spaniards began to shout and cry, "Viva el Rey!" God save the king! And immediately their horse moved against the pirates. But the fields being full of quags and soft underfoot, they could not wheel about as they desired. The 200 buccaneers who went before, each putting one knee to the ground, began the battle briskly, with a full volley of shot. The Spaniards defended themselves courageously, doing all they could to disorder the pirates. Their foot endeavoured to second the horse, but were constrained by the pirates to leave them. Finding themselves baffled, they attempted to drive the bulls against them behind, to put them into disorder; but the wild cattle ran away, frightened with the noise of the battle. Only some few broke through the English companies, and only tore the colours in pieces, while the buccaneers shot every one of them dead. The battle having continued 2 hours, the greatest part of the Spanish horse was ruined, and almost all killed. The rest fled, which the foot seeing, and that they could not possibly prevail, they discharged the shot they had in their muskets, and throwing them down, fled away, every one as he could. The pirates could not follow them, being too much harassed and wearied with their long journey. Many, not being able to fly whither they desired, hid themselves, for that present, among the shrubs of the sea side; but very unfortunately, for most of them being found by the pirates, were instantly killed, without any quarter. Some religious men were brought prisoners before Captain Morgan; but he being deaf to their cries, commanded them all to be pistolled, which was done. Soon after they brought a captain to him, whom he examined very strictly, particularly, wherein consisted the forces of those of Panama? He answered, their whole strength consisted in 400 horse, 24 companies of foot, each of 100 men complete, 60 Indians, and some negroes, who were to drive 2,000 wild bulls upon the English, and thus, by breaking their files, put them into a total disorder. Beside that, in the city they had made trenches and raised batteries in several places, in all which they had placed many guns, and that at the entry of the highway leading to the city they had built a fort mounted with 8 great brass guns, defended by 50 men. Captain Morgan, having heard this, gave orders instantly to march another way; but first he made a review of his men, whereof he found both killed and wounded a considerable number, and much greater than had been believed. Of the Spaniards were found 600 dead on the place, besides the wounded and prisoners. The pirates, nothing discouraged, seeing their numbers so diminished, but rather filled with greater pride, perceiving what huge advantage they had obtained against their enemies, having rested some time, prepared to march courageously towards the city, plighting their oaths to one another, that they would fight till not a man was left alive. With this courage they recommenced their march, either to conquer or be conquered, carrying with them all the prisoners. They found much difficulty in their approach to the city, for within the town the Spaniards had placed many great guns at several quarters, some charged with small pieces of iron, and others with musket bullets. With all these they saluted the pirates at their approaching, and gave them full and frequent broadsides, firing at them incessantly, so that unavoidably they lost at every step great numbers of men. But these manifest dangers of their lives, nor the sight of so many as dropped continually at their sides, could deter them from advancing, and gaining ground every moment on the enemy. And though the Spaniards never ceased to fire and act the best they could for their defence, yet they were forced to yield after 3 hours' combat. And the pirates, having possessed themselves, killed and destroyed all that attempted in the least to oppose them. The inhabitants had transported the best of their goods to more remote and occult places; howbeit they found in the city several warehouses well stocked with merchandise, as well silks and cloths as linen and other things of value. As soon as the first fury of their entrance was over, Captain Morgan assembled his men, and commanded them, under great penalties, not to drink or taste any wine; and the reason he gave for it was, because he had intelligence that it was all poisoned by the Spaniards. Howbeit it was thought he gave these prudent orders to prevent the debauchery of his people, which he foresaw would be very great at the first, after so much hunger sustained by the way; fearing withal lest the Spaniards, seeing them in wine, should rally, and falling on the city, use them as inhumanly as they had used the inhabitants before. CHAPTER 18. Read by Lars Rolander.